Everyone, would everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, welcome everyone on this beautiful spring day. It's a pleasure for us to be here. We are short a quorum, so we are going to get the meeting started, but we won't vote or take action on anything until we have a quorum here. So on this day, Wednesday, May 8th, 2013, at 4:10 p.m., the annual board meeting of the Chicago Park District is being held in the field house of West Lawn Park at 4233 West 65th Street, Chicago, Illinois. Will the Secretary take a roll call of the commissioners?
Commissioner Shalaby?
Here.
Commissioner Koldyke? Commissioner Lavelle? Commissioner Salgado?
Here.
Commissioner Allen? Vice President Armstrong? President Trobert?
Here.
We currently do not have a quorum, but let the record reflect that General Superintendent Michael Kelly and General Counsel Maria Garcia are also in attendance.
This meeting will please come to order. It's my pleasure to start the meeting out by introducing Alderman Quinn. Alderman Quinn has been a wonderful friend of the Chicago Park District and has been a wonderful leader in getting things done for parks in his ward. A prime example of this is there's an artificial turf field that is currently under construction. It's part of a public-private partnership, and it just simply would not happen if it wasn't for Alderman Quinn and his leadership and his generosity with some of his menu funds. It's also made possible by a donation from a family foundation. And Robbie Gold, the Bears kicker, is holding he holds a golf fundraiser, and he has pledged, Robbie Gold has pledged to give us a check for $250,000, every dime of which is going to go toward the artificial turf field. But it's Alderman Quinn who made this possible by his leadership and his generosity. So anyway, Alderman Quinn, it's great to be here. Welcome. I wonder if you could address us. Thanks.
Sure. Thank you, President Traubert, and welcome to the 13th Ward in West Lawn Park. West Lawn Park is a real important park to me. I grew up here. I spent a lot of time in the programs here. I worked here in high school, and now as the alderman of the 13th Ward, it sits right in the middle of the ward. So it's real important. Had a lot of good experiences here that have helped craft sort of my philosophy as being an alderman. So it's my thoughts and my hope that I could provide the same opportunities that was provided to me with partnering with the parks. So in the first 2 years as alderman of the 13th Ward, not only do we have the project that you'd mentioned out in front, President Traubert, here at West Lawn, we've upgraded Minuteman Park with $400,000 worth of TIF dollars. We've updated Lawler Park with a $600,000 joint project. Just today we've introduced TIF dollars that are going to go to lighting at Madigan Field for baseball. So we have a lot of good things going on here in the 13th Ward on the southwest side. None of that could be possible without the good work and the cooperation of the park. So I simply want to welcome you. I want to say thank you, President Traubert. Thank you, Superintendent Kelly. And as you sort of alluded to, I'm kind of aggressive with my wants and my expectations. So I wanted to just say a few thank yous to Paul Pope, who's the supervisor here at West Lawn Park, Kathy Volz, who has been fantastic to work with, and I have to say thank you to Tim King, who picks up the phone every time I call, responds to texts. So none of the good things that we're doing here on the southwest side could not happen without the good cooperation. So thank you for being here. Thank you for the work that you've done. and most importantly is thank you for the work that you're going to do. So.
Let the record reflect that Vice President Armstrong has joined the meeting and quorum is present.
Brian, could I share a few words? Please. I think Commissioner Salgado here, I want to make sure that Alderman Quinn is also, quite frankly, thanked for his deep connection to the community. I had the pleasure of being in a couple of community meetings where lots of planning was being done around the needs of the parks and the needs of the community, and they were wonderful, productive meetings that were going on because of the leadership that you've exhibited in this community. So it's a joy as a Park District Commissioner to show up and see our aldermen and our community working in such concert. And I also want to take the opportunity to thank Brian and the Pritzker Traubert Foundation and all of the work you've done to make the turf fields across this city a reality, and this turf field in this community a reality. You've done it as a humble servant. You give up your time to this board, and but you also give deeply of your resources. And when I see those kids out there playing at all the turf fields that I drive by on a daily basis, I think about what wouldn't be there if it weren't for your investment and your commitment and your leveraging other dollars. So we have a lot to be thankful of, and I didn't want to lose the opportunity to say that.
Thank you very much.
Mr. President, if I may also, just to echo on Commissioner Salgado's words, I'm also a resident of the 13th Ward and want to commend the alderman for all his good work, and I know he does have a list of things that he's looking for us to do, as well as echo my thanks to President Traubert, the beautiful field that we celebrated here, I think, less than a year ago, and all the other fields that the Traubert Foundation has given to. So, and on behalf of the 13th Ward and the South Side, we welcome you here, and thanks for having the meeting out here. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. And BJ, since we're from the north side, I think we just let the south siders speak and we'll move on. But anyway, welcome, BJ.
Thank you.
Item number 1, election of officers, president and vice president.
I would move to nominate Brian Traubert to serve as president of the Chicago Park District Board of Commissioners for a term of 1 year.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried.
Commissioner Salgado, nominate Benjamin Armstrong to serve as Vice President of the Board of Commissioners for a term of 1 year.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Motion carried, and Benjamin Armstrong is elected to serve as Vice President for a term of 1 year.
Great, thank you. I appreciate your confidence, and we'll continue to work hard and have a good year. But anyway, thank you very, very much. Item number 2, approval of the meeting minutes from the regular meeting held on April 10th, 2013. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Will the secretary take a roll call of the commissioners?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Salgado?
Aye.
Commissioner Shalaby?
Aye.
Vice President Armstrong?
Aye.
President Traubert?
Aye.
Commissioner Salgado?
Aye.
Motion carried, and the matter is adopted.
Next on the agenda is presentation from departments. First, I'd like to ask Scott Stevenson from Westrec to give us an environmental update.
Good morning, or good afternoon. My name is Scott Stevenson, and I'm a vice president of Westrec Marinas. We're the contractor that manages the Chicago Park District harbors, the 10 harbors up and down the lakefront. If I could, I've got a PowerPoint presentation to show you. We are in an interesting time. If you've been listening to the news, you'll see that we have had the lowest water levels on Lake Michigan we've ever had. In January, the lake level dropped below any level that it's been recorded at since they started taking measurements. Fortunately, with the rains that we've had the past few weeks and the natural cycle of the water, it's come up a little bit. Next. Let me just briefly tell you, what the causes and effects here. Basically, you have water that flows into the lake that comes from precipitation and comes from the watershed around the lakes. And the uses, of course, water evaporates, it's used for drinking water, and it's diverted to other sources. And what's happened recently, the drought that we had last year obviously reduced the source of the water. We also had a very warm winter the last 2 winters, and we didn't have as much ice cover, so there was a lot more evaporation. The result is very low lake levels. And we've actually been in a cycle of low lake levels for about 10 years. Next. This is a chart from the United States Army Corps of Engineers that shows where we are. And if you look at that line on the bottom, that represents what the lake levels have been doing of late. The blue line in the middle is the average lake level. And the forecast, fortunately, is that the water levels are going to go up to, again, the low range, but below these all-time levels. Next. So what are the impacts of low lake levels on the harbors? Well, I'm going to talk about some of our problems with channels. I'm going to talk about some issues we have with slips, our launch ramps, and our gangways. Next, please. 2 of our southern harbors, Jackson Park Outer Harbor and 59th Street Harbor, are in the process of being dredged because of the very low lake levels. The problem at Jackson Park Outer Harbor is a recurring problem. Sand accumulates in the entrance to that harbor, and then has been coming into the harbor as well. Next. We are currently dredging there, and actually I got the update on the way here from our contractor and from our supervisor. We're actually now close to 50% completed with the work at Jackson Park Outer Harbor. This work's being supervised by Westrec's Vice President of Construction. He's up from Atlanta, supervising this work to get it done as quickly as possible. Next, please. We also have issues with shallow slips. As you can see, there are slips in many harbors that are too shallow. If you look at that picture on the right, you'll see stuff in the water. That's because it's only a couple of feet deep near that slip in Diversey Harbor. Fortunately for us, less than 2% of the slips in the harbor system are impacted this way. In many other marinas around southern Lake Michigan, the problem is much, much worse. Next, please. We also have issues with our launch ramps. Our launch ramps, many of them were really not designed for this very low lake level, so we've been renovating some of our launch ramps to make them more accessible. Next, please. And finally, this picture was taken at Montrose Harbor in February when the water was very low, and you can see how steep that gangway is. The lake level was just so low, we thought we were going to have to replace a number of our gangways. As the waters come up, that's become unnecessary at this point. Next, please. The costs for the low lake levels this year, you can see we're dredging at Jackson Park Outer and at 59th Street. We're renovating the ramp at Diversey, and we've had to make some other modifications. For example, we've had to cut in lower stairs at Monroe Harbor for our tender service, and we've had to redeck some of our other docks. In all, it could be much worse, and for the $13 million in operating income, we're lucky to have an impact that's this low. If the lake level goes much lower, though, it will be a bigger problem for us, and we will keep a close eye on that, and obviously let the Park District know as fast as we know if that is a problem. Finally, we're studying the Jackson Park outer issue and hope to come back to the Park District shortly with a long-term proposal for that. Any questions for the board?
I actually have a question, Scott. What are other harbors in the Great Lakes facing similar issues?
Yes, there's many harbors are facing this issue. There's dredging going on right now at Waukegan, at New Buffalo, in Michigan City. There are many places where slips and whole marinas are not going to be usable because of the low water situation. In addition to low water, we've also had a period the last 2 years of intense storms, and the storms move the sand around. And you wouldn't think so, but Hurricane Sandy had a big impact on some marinas in the Great Lakes to actually completely close them off, close the entrances off. So compared to our neighbors, we're in pretty good shape.
And Scott, what you said about Jackson Park Outer this is a recurrent problem of sand moving in rather than the water level, or the water level exacerbates the problem?
It exacerbates the problem, but the problem at Jackson Outer is that sand, it's kind of a funnel. Sand comes in from both the south and from the north and accumulates in that particular location. Fortunately, it's the only one of our harbor entrances that has a recurring problem like that.
Is there any way to get ahead of the dredging so that the enjoyment of the boaters and is not impacted?
Well, we've engaged AECOM to come up with a long-term solution for the Jackson Harbor problem for that very reason. We're limited by other factors. You really can't dredge in March or in April. The weather's too unpredictable, and so every year it's a race to get the contractor in, get the dredging done in time for the boating season to start. Unfortunately, last year we were about 2 months late in starting that, and it caused the problem that you're aware of.
And secure the permits.
Correct.
Great. Well, thank you, Scott. And we'll look forward to then at some point you'll have more information on the Jackson Park issue.
Correct. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. Next, we'll hear an update on beaches from Kathy Breitenbach, Acting Director of Green Initiatives.
Afternoon, President Traubert, Superintendent Kelly, Commissioners. I'm Kathy Breitenbach, the Acting Director of Green Initiatives for the Park District, and I also have a PowerPoint presentation. If you could go back to the beginning. Thanks. Before I get started talking about what's in the presentation, I want to acknowledge the work of some of the other departments of the Park District. We have great beaches in Chicago. We're very fortunate, and there's a lot of work that goes into that. The Department of Natural Resources does a tremendous effort. They're out there at 3 in the morning, 7 days a week, grooming all of our beaches. And the Aquatics Department also does a tremendous job with the lifeguards. My department manages water quality programs, our monitoring and notification programs, and projects to try and improve water quality. Beach is open 2 weeks from Friday, so this is a good time to give you an update. Next slide, please. The chart that you see on this slide is kind of a snapshot of how our beaches have been doing in terms of water quality since 2005. 2012 is the bar that you see furthest over to the right. And what you see is a roll-up of all of our beaches together, how often we have restrictions due to water quality. Generally, our beaches in Chicago are really pretty clean. We're lucky we very, very rarely have sewage in the water. And we've got a pretty good handle on what our sources of contamination are, usually due to wildlife and weather. But this just gives you a snapshot of how we've been doing and the results we've been getting from all the water quality tests that we've been taking. Next slide, please. Here's what I'll cover in the update, what you can expect for 2013. Our season runs 2 weeks from Friday through Labor Day, September 3rd. We will continue daily testing at all the beaches, but we will be expanding the predictive modeling program that we launched last year and I'll talk about that a little more, and maintaining the new swim advisory policy that we put in place last year. Our Beach Ambassadors outreach program and the wildlife management we do will continue. And we've got a couple new projects I'll tell you about. So you can go to the next slide, please. First thing I want to talk about is predictive modeling. And I know you saw a little bit about this last year when we first launched the program. You might have seen this slide before. It just shows you why we're doing it. What you see up there, the dotted line that runs across the bottom of the slide, is the water quality standard, where we have to notify the public of health risk. What we monitor for at the beaches is bacteria, and we are required to tell the people when there is a risk that they may become sick from swimming. That line shows what that level is. When we take tests in the water, it takes 18 hours to get the results. This is a problem all over the country. We would be telling people what the water quality was like yesterday, when it is likely to have changed by the time we get the results. What you see on that chart, the diamonds are the water quality test results, but when we took them, not when we got them. And what you see in the background is the flag color that day at the beach. So you can see we were kind of missing it, which is why we put in place the predictive modeling program. Next slide, please. Predictive modeling is basically using weather data to predict the water quality in real time. This is the slide where I'm supposed to impress you with fancy math that we do. But basically, we use the things that you see on the top, wave height, solar radiation, wind speed, turbidity, or how cloudy the water is, to predict the bacteria level. And it's based on statistical regression. Next slide, please. So we tried this last year. We actually put up flag colors at the beaches based on these computer models that we developed. How did we do? We had 5 different models that we built at 5 different beaches, and based on the math, we put them in place wherever it worked, wherever we could get the math to work. That was at 15 of our beaches, where we actually made the determination whether we had a swim advisory based on the model. We still told the public the test results. We were giving them both pieces of information. So how did we do? We did better than using test results, but only a little bit better. We've only had 1 year of data, and there is a lot of noise in this data. So we hope every year we go forward, we'll get better and better with modeling. There's an example from Montrose, which is kind of our middle of the road. Some beaches did really well, some not so well. Montrose was kind of in the middle, 87% correct versus we would have been 83% correct if we just used the test results. Next slide, please. Our goal was to expand it to every beach this year, and we are going to be doing that, I'm very happy to say. Instead of 5 models, we will have 9 models built. If you can actually hit next, it will show you all the beaches. There we go. This is where we have modeling equations developed. You can see all the beaches listed on the map at the right, and we will apply those to nearby beaches. So, for example, 63rd Street Beach's modeling equation will be used for 57th Street Beach. Next slide, please. The other new thing that I want to tell you about that we're very excited about, we've got some funding from the EPA to develop a new section of the Park District's website specifically for our beaches. It's supposed to go live next week. We wanted to do some things that are really new functionality for our website that we're really excited about to try and meet the public's expectation, go the extra effort, where they can really see in real time some interesting information on their phones, as well as at home on their computers. So this is a screenshot of what the website's going to look like. We're going to have an interactive map where you'll be able to see features of our beaches and zoom in and out, and the flags on the map will actually change color with the swim advisories. For the first time this year, we actually got computers in the lifeguard rooms, and we'll be able to update that status as well. So the lifeguards are going to have access to this website, and you won't be frustrated if you're a member of the public. Our website tells you there's no swimming restrictions, but you get there and there's high waves. Now the lifeguards will be able to update that in real time on our website, so it should always reflect current conditions out in the field. Can you hit next, please? It's just another example of what it'll look like. You can look at either a map or a list of the beaches. Can you go to the next slide, please? There'll be an individual page for each beach, and a couple of the other features we're really excited about. The equipment we've got out on the lakefront for the predictive modeling has a lot of interesting data. We get weather updates from all that equipment every hour, where we can tell you the water temperature, how windy it is, the wave height. We found that people are interested in knowing this, so we'll be able to stream that data live, and it will continuously update on our own website. The other thing that we're doing that's new that we're excited about is responsive design, where it will automatically detect what you're viewing it on, so it will be very friendly to use on a phone, a tablet, or a desktop. And I've got to give a big thank you to the IT department. I think Director Steve Maris is here, and Ed Reinierson on his staff have put in a tremendous effort to make this work. Next slide, please. We brought the beach barrier pilot project to the board last year, so I wanted to give you a quick update. This was a project completely funded by the EPA. The Park District didn't put in any of our resources, but we tried out a method for keeping the water clean that the EPA wanted to pilot. We will not be putting it back this year. It was successful in terms of helping us understand better what's happening with water quality, but it didn't make a big difference in the water quality. We found the water itself really didn't have much difference inside and out of this barrier, although the sand was much cleaner. So we're learning a little bit about how bacteria moves through our systems. But it did cause some issues for the lifeguards. We had people thinking it was a playpen where they could drop off their kids and things like that. So we will not be putting it back, but we've learned a lot from what the EPA sponsored for us. Next slide, please. A couple of new projects I wanted to mention. One is at Rainbow Beach. We got a new grant from the EPA again to deal with a problem we've identified at Rainbow Beach. It's the only beach we have where the parking lot doesn't have any drain infrastructure. And as you can see from the picture on there, we get some pretty serious runoff onto the beach, and the runoff is pretty dirty. That has an effect on beach water quality. So we've partnered with the Illinois Institute of Technology and the University of Illinois at Chicago to test a prototype stormwater filter that will clean this water right in place and filter it before it discharges onto the beach. We're very excited about that. It's the first time this technology is going to be tried in the field. Next slide, please. There's another example of the stormwater filter and what it will look like. And if anyone's interested, I can provide more detail. Next slide, please. I think that's it for the update. A little plug for our latest public outreach art project. The slides there are of a mural on a comfort station at 47th Street. Any questions?
Kathy, how much of the EPA's money did we spend to determine that that wasn't helpful?
It's a couple $100,000.
And can you tell me, when you close beaches, do you close them on the basis of your predictive modeling, the testing, or both?
Where we have working predictive models, we put up an advisory. We only actually ban swimming completely if there's human sewage detected. So when we have the locks opened, we would actually put a swim ban in place across the whole lakefront. But the advisories where we have the models are based on the models, and we continually check the models against the test results to make sure they're working correctly. We did last year have a couple times where a piece of equipment went down, and we always have the test results to fall back on when that happens.
You mentioned it. Oh, so go ahead. You mentioned it takes 24 hours to get the results.
That's correct.
What does that do to? You have to send it away, or it's a
we bring them to
special
a lab that's located at UIC, but you have to culture the bacteria. So it takes 18 hours to grow the bacteria, kind of in a petri dish.
Gotcha.
Any other questions?
One thing I want to be clear is even when there's high levels, the advisories and the swim bans are for swimming, not closing the beaches, right?
Exactly.
The other thing is this can be oftentimes this can be a dry topic for folks. But I want to commend you because I've been around long enough to watch you spearhead this from an idea into being one of the more innovative and effective ways of handling the beaches in the country. The second reason is it may not be important when you talk about a dry topic about predictive modeling and bacteria counts, but when you factor in that roughly about 9 million people use our beaches every year, in a span of June to September, all of a sudden this becomes a very important topic. So I want to commend you and your office and everybody who works for you and around you for your efforts, because I know we spend a lot of time and a lot of people's money trying to get people in the water and keeping them from getting sick, and thus far it's actually worked quite well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thanks, Kathy, very, very much. Next on the agenda is the People in the Park section. Will the Secretary please call the names of those who have signed up to speak?
We ask that you please limit your comments to 2 minutes. Our first 3 speakers are Cecilia Butler, Lena Fritz, and I have one more. And Mark Heller. No Cecilia? Okay. Miss Lena? Miss Lena in? Okay,
great. Good afternoon. Excuse me. My name is Lena Fritz. I am a 10-year resident of Hyde Park. I have a 3-year-old, and I'm expecting a son in July. I'm here to advocate for the Harold Washington Playlot located at 5200 South Hyde Park Boulevard. This playlot has served our community faithfully for about 20 years now without any renovation. Many features have fallen into disrepair and are potentially dangerous. There are ladders that are broken that our toddlers climb on, swings that are completely hanging down, seesaws that have had to be ripped up out of the ground and completely removed. We've submitted an application to renovate the park through the Chicago Plays program. And one thing that is really unique about our park is that it is highly frequented by people from all over the South Side, not just the Hyde Park community. We see people from 32nd Street all the way to 129th Street. It is a park that on any given day you can come and hear multiple languages being spoken, multiple ethnicities frequenting and enjoying the park. It is a socioeconomically diverse and a racially diverse park that serves a wide range of a population on the South Side of Chicago. We needed only 50 signatures for our petition and our application, and just in 3 days we got over 3 times that amount. We as a community, and I represent a group called Hyde Park Area Parents Group, we dream of a revitalized, revitalized park with a well-deserved makeover to really honor the name of Harold Washington. Remaining. And I just want to encourage the Board of Commissioners and the Chicago Park District to not delay in renovating this well-deserved park that is so well-loved by our community. Thank you.
Well, good. And Rob Raymond, our Director of Construction, is nodding his head at me saying that your application has been received and you're in good shape. It's going to be renovated this summer. So congratulations.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Heller. I'm a Logan Square and Chicago Parks advocate. Commissioners, you should have in your annual packet my written testimony, which is headed Open Space Fees Indexed to Neighborhood Valuation. This is a suggested update of the City of Chicago's Open Space Fee program, wherein developers, when they build new residential dwelling units, pay a fee to the city based on the size of the dwelling unit, from $300 per unit to $1,200, basically from studio one-bedroom size to single-family home or four-bedroom type of size. And at the 2012 Park District Board meeting, this same presentation was made to you folks, and I very much appreciate that the board agreed that a lot of the suggestions in the enclosed proposal made a great deal of sense, and had suggested to the city, which controls this program, it's a city ordinance, and the money is ported to the Park District on a per-project basis, that the city visit an updating of the 1998 16-year-old funding formula. Friends of the Parks has researched this issue, and their research has shown that other urban cities assess several-fold more per square foot of dwelling space, basically the equivalent of an open space fee. I can't, 2 minutes is not enough time to fully summarize this, but this is not a new issue for you.
30
folks.
seconds remaining.
I believe it is very important for the members of the board and Superintendent Kelly to contact the mayor's office to facilitate a real-time dialogue with stakeholders that might include aldermen, parks advocates, the Park District, of course. This has been presented to the city and to the Department of Housing and Economic Development and the Deputy Commissioner who is responsible for this program.
You have exceeded
the Department
your 2
of
minutes.
Housing has regrettably done nothing, and I believe you folks are in a position of greater influence than myself, and I urge you to facilitate this. It's more money for parks, which we can all embrace, and I think voters and residents of the city of Chicago can all agree with that. Maybe some developers might not.
Thank you,
like
Mr. Heller.
Thank you.
Mark, long and short of it is there's no quarrel from either I or the board or any member of the Park District on your research and your opinions. We agree, and I am constantly raising this with Commissioner Mooney.
I believe it's time to raise it with the mayor's staff, and a mayoral introduced ordinance will probably be more facile through City Council than another mechanism.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Our last speaker is Louise McCurry.
I just want to start by saying thank you for a whole bunch of things you guys have done for us. Thank you for fixing our Bobolink Meadow parking lot so that we now don't have broken axles. Thank you for the thousands of plants we put in Bobolink Meadows this year. Thank you for mulching the trees and that the beavers and take the trees that the beavers took down, taking them out of the park. Thank you for dredging the harbors. And thank you for supporting our Earth Day volunteers who came out and put bags and bags and bags of garbage and you got them out of there. I want to quickly use my 2 minutes to cover a couple of basic things. In Bobolink Meadow and by the 59th Street tennis courts, there's a water fountain that does not have a tap that we can attach a hose to, and a lot of the new seedlings that we plant need to be watered. We've been lugging water by bucket out of the lagoon to water a lot of them. But we could get a tap there, then we could actually water them efficiently. Second is the water fountain on the south side of the tennis courts is broken, has been laying on the ground for a couple of years, and then finally somebody carted it away this year. We'd love to replace that water fountain. Third, at La Rabida South Beach, which was the beach for the south side from 64th to 67th, for years no one has replaced the sand. And so what we now have is a mixture of sand that, since we removed the invasive species last year, we now have a beach people are using again. But it would make a huge difference in the overcrowding that happens on 57th Street Beach and 63rd Street Beach, and the resulting violence that happens when you put alcohol and guns and thousands of people in one spot. If we could have that beach at 64th Street open, we could do kite flies, and we could do volleyball games, and we could do beach badminton games. It's a wonderful spot. We have people already swimming there illegally, but nonetheless, we've cleared out the invasive species. It's a wonderful spot, just needs some
30
sand.
seconds remaining.
Sorry, okay. And finally, the fourth thing is the replacement of, in the World's Fair of 1893, there was a wonderful stage area called the Music Court, and there was a small stage there. The last time it was used was for Handel's water music concert about 20 years ago. The stage somehow disappeared, and as a result, people are parking all over the music court. So if we could replace that small stage again, people would then use it for school groups, for neighborhood groups, for JPAC groups, for classes, for jazz bands. I mean, all kinds of folks would use the area because parking is available. And it's a very simple
You have
stage
exceeded
to
your
replace.
2 minutes.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
No, Louise, we talked briefly before, but I promise you on the record, I will make time for me and my team to come out and we'll do a tour of Jackson. It's probably been a year and a half since I've done a thorough walkthrough myself. So we'll go out and we've got a lot of exciting new projects coming your way.
We are an amazing park. You are always welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have one more speaker, George Blakemore.
Good afternoon to the superintendent and to the elected officials and to the citizens of Chicago and the citizens of Cook County. I have spoken on this issue before, and I believe that this is a place to bring up the issue also. We have Lincoln Park Zoo, and we have a beautiful park district here in Chicago. It's nationally known and internationally known. Lincoln Park is a free park to the citizens of the city of Chicago, Cook County, United States. People come from all over the world to Lincoln Park free. We are also citizens of Cook County, and Brookfield Zoo is sitting on county land, the Forest Preserve, and we are entitled as citizens of the city of Chicago and Cook County to have 1 day a week, 1 day set aside, a given day, to go to Brookfield Zoo free. The Art Institute has
30 seconds remaining.
These are this has been passed in the state legislature. Intergovernmental agreement the Park District has with the city of Chicago, also with your sister agency, bring up that issue this one day free for the citizens of Chicago to go to Brookfield Zoo, because there's a lot of things that they have in Brookfield Zoo.
You have exceeded
that we
your 2
do
minutes.
not, thank you, that we do not have in Lincoln Park Zoo, and we want our citizens to go out there. You have an agreement with the Botanic Garden, the Park District, have an intergovernmental agreement where our citizens here in the city of Chicago would be able to go to Brookfield Zoo. It's
Thank you, Mr.
mandated by the
Blakemore.
state legislature. Please help us enforce this law where our citizens can go one day a week. Thank you again, and have a peaceful and blessed day and a better tomorrow. And all of you mothers out here, happy Mother's Day.
There are no further speakers.
Okay, we have a fairly lengthy agenda here, and we're lucky enough to have representatives from the Chicago Bears and SMG Stadium Management Group with us here today. And they are scheduled to go deep in the agenda. So I would wonder if we could have a motion to take item 12 out of order.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried, and item number 12 will be taken out of order.
Okay, so next we're going to hear item number 12 from the Director of Revenue, authorization to enter into a contract for Soldier Field Food Service Management. Rafi Sarafian.
President Traubert, Commissioners, General Superintendent, and CEO Kelly, good afternoon. My name is Rafi Sarafian. I'm the Director of Purchasing. I'm here today to recommend that the General Superintendent and CEO or his designee enter into a contract with Aramark Sports and Entertainment Services, LLC, for the purposes of managing the food and beverage operation at Soldier Field. The contractor was selected pursuant to a publicly advertised RFP. No work may commence, and no payment shall be made to the vendor prior to execution of a written agreement. The Chicago Park District and the Chicago Bears require the services of a firm to manage the food and beverage operation at Soldier Field for Bears Game Day and all other events at the stadium. Pursuant to the Chicago Park District Chicago Bears Permit Operating Agreement, or POA, this RFP was developed jointly with the Chicago Bears. The RFP discussed these responsibilities in a 21-page scope of services that was supplemented by 22 exhibits that included 1. Historical sales data, 2. Concession equipment inventory, 3. Events and attendance detail, 4. POS counts, 5. Maps of the stadiums and concession areas, 6. Core menus and pricing, and 7. Copies of the agreements relating to the food service operation at Soldier Field, including the CPD Bears POA, the SMG agreement, and the sports service agreement. Specifically, the manager's responsibilities include staffing and operating all concession stands and kitchens, providing food products, preparing, selling, and serving all food in the stadium bowl and inside the stadium, selling all beverages, alcoholic and non-alcoholic, catering services, suite services, club services, improving the menu offerings throughout the stadium, incorporating the latest technology into the concession operation, assisting marketing efforts for non-Bears Game Day, assisting with capital improvements at the stadium as they relate to the food and beverage operation, maintaining and repairing the equipment used in the preparation, storage, delivery, and serving of food and beverages, and keeping all concession areas in a clean and well-maintained state at all times. As mentioned above, the manager will perform its services throughout the Stadium Bowl and inside the stadium. Areas in the Stadium Bowl include fixed and mobile concession stands. Areas inside the stadium include all levels of the club, suites, and fixed concession stands. The manager's responsibilities also extend to the back of the house areas, including the kitchens and storage spaces. The RFP was advertised for 52 days, and during the advertisement period, there was a walkthrough of Soldier Field and a pre-submittal conference. Additionally, proposers were afforded the opportunity to submit questions to the Department of Purchasing separate from the pre-submittal conference, and those questions and answers were distributed to every firm or individual who downloaded the RFP. All proposals received were from recognized leaders in food service management, indicating that the RFP generated strong competition and the evaluation was likely not going to be easy. Also pursuant to the POA and as discussed in the RFP, the evaluation of the proposals was a joint CPD-BEARS effort. Accordingly, the evaluation committee was composed of 2 teams of 5 voting members each. In other words, there were 10 voting members. The 5-member CPD team was comprised of 3 CPD personnel and 2 SMG personnel. The 5-member BEAR team was comprised of BEARS personnel. Furthermore, both the CPD and BEARS had non-voting members as part of their team, including experts in stadium food service operations. The RFP discussed the evaluation criteria that each evaluation committee would use to score the proposals and the percentage weight for each criterion. 1, experience, weighted at 5%. 2, operations, weighted at 15%. 3, personnel, weighted at 30%. 4, sales, marketing, and concession development, weighted at 20%. And 5, the financial proposal, weighted at 30%. The evaluation committee went about their task very carefully, fairly, and thoroughly as they evaluated all information before them from each proposer. Specifically, the evaluation committee considered the contents of the proposals initially submitted, oral presentations with all proposers, responses to the clarifications sent to all proposers, and best and final offers from all proposers. The evaluation committee diligently and seriously undertook their work over the course of almost a month-and-a-half period, in which they not only read the contents of the information before them, but also met 5 times for at least an hour-and-a-half each meeting to discuss the proposals and conducted oral presentations with the proposers that were 3 hours each in length. At the conclusion of this evaluation process, the Chicago Park District and Chicago Bears evaluation teams each scored Aramark Sports and Entertainment Services the highest and recommended them for award. The evaluation committee determined that they presented the best overall proposal, considering all evaluation criteria to manage and grow the food and beverage operation at Soldier Field for the Chicago Park District and the Chicago Bears. Specifically, the evaluation committee felt they had the strongest combination of approach and vision, analytics, use and implementation of technology, strength of their personnel, and creativity to move the food service operation at Soldier Field forward. Aramark manages food and beverage operations at over 170 stadiums, arenas, amphitheaters, and convention centers around the world. This portfolio includes 12 National Football League stadiums, 13 Major League Baseball stadiums, 10 National Hockey League arenas, and 5 National Basketball League arenas. Additionally, Aramark has been providing these services for decades and is considered a leading company in the industry. Therefore, it is in the best interest of the Chicago Park District to recommend Aramark Sports and Entertainment Services for award for the Soldier Field Food Service Management contract. And before I turn it over for questions, I'd like to introduce to you a few people who are here today. From Aramark, we have President Mark Bruno, Paul Tazar, Vice President of Business Development, and Brad Perno, the General Manager to be for Soldier Field. From the Chicago Bears, we have Karen Murphy, the Chief Financial Officer, and Chris Hibbs, the Director of Marketing, and I will add that they were both on the Bears Evaluation Committee. And from SMG, we have Tim Lefevre, Kevin Walsh, and Marty McAndrew, and Tim and Kevin were part of the Park District Committee as voting members, and Marty was a non-voting member. And lastly, I would like to acknowledge the Park District staff that was on this committee that did a wonderful job as well. Juliet Azimi, Budget Director, Tanya Anthony, Chief Administrative Officer, and Linda Daly, Deputy Director of Capital Construction. And lastly, I would like to thank Mr. Mark Reed from Purchasing, who was leading this project on behalf of Purchasing. So that said, are there any questions?
Rafi, what has been the trend in terms of the resources coming back to the Chicago Park District as a result of this, and what do you expect the trend to be in the future?
If I could turn the question. If I could turn the question over to Tim Lefevre for the answer.
Thank you, President Traubert, Commissioners, General Superintendent Kelly. I asked Mark Bruno to come up with me, President of Aramark. As you've seen over the years, especially with the new Soldier Field, the trend in our growth in the concession industry and the concession sales for both Chicago Bear games and Park District events has been phenomenal. It's amazing the points of sale we've been able to increase at Soldier Field. When we looked at these bids, you had an incumbent in Sports Service, you had a Chicago-based company in Levy, and then the largest concession operation in the country in Aramark bidding on this proposal. Aramark's bid was so creative and innovative on new concepts and ideas that will generate revenue, new food concepts for the stadium, points of sale, and especially the club, which is a key area for the Chicago Park District and the Chicago Bears. When you see the plan rolled out for the next 10 years, Aramark is going to invest over $10 million in capital in the building to upgrade our facilities and keep us one of the top stadiums in the NFL. Our goal and mission with the Chicago Bears on a yearly basis is always be in the top 25% of NFL stadiums. The proposal you'll see from Aramark, if you have time to review it and take a look, they keep us in that position. They make Chicago one of the strongest stadiums out there, and we will have the ability to continue to serve our clients, whether it's the Chicago Bears, concert promoters, soccer matches, or any other event we bring. It is a top-notch proposal. I think all of us can attest on the committee that Aramark stepped forward and put a presentation out that I have not seen in my 32 years in sports. Mark?
Thank you. Well, I would say that Tim summed it up pretty well, but to answer your question, I believe that while I don't have perfect insight on the history going backwards, we believe that with some of the programs that will be instituted as a result of the investment and as a result of a year-round effort to market the Soldier Field property, we believe that the resources coming back to the Park District will continue to significantly grow in the coming years.
Thank you.
Rafi, Aramark is, are they in town now providing sports food service?
Aramark, as you may know, is a large international company with several resources here in the city of Chicago. We employ over 7,000 employees here in the city of Chicago through all of our businesses. In the sports and entertainment division, which I oversee, we do have some resources and operations here in the city, namely just outside the city at the Allstate Arena. We also run a couple of amphitheater facilities here, such as Charter One, where we do the food and beverage operations. And we also provide the facility services at both Navy Pier and at McCormick Place.
Great. And Rafi, can you tell me, since this will be a new provider at Soldier Field, we're losing the incumbent, was the specific management team that we will get from Aramark, were they identified, able to be interviewed, and their background researched?
With us is Brad Perno, who is the GM-to-be at Soldier Field, and that was one of the criterion as part of the evaluation was personnel. Who are the key personnel, the management team, the executive team that will be part of the full-time Soldier Field staff, and that was one of the considerations. And like Mr. Perno, the committee felt that Aramark's team had very strong experience and qualifications ready to hit the ground running.
Okay, and would you just mind telling me what is the immediate past jobs that he had, who's going to now take over the Soldier Field operation?
I can call him, Brad, would you like to?
Again, thank you very much for having us today. Currently, hopefully for the next 10 minutes, I'm the general manager of the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. Previous to that, I've overseen the Kansas City Royals. I've worked with the Boston Red Sox organization, the New England Patriots organization. I've also overseen several amphitheaters throughout the country, and that have a 12-year history in this line of business with Aramark.
Great, and you're coming to Chicago.
I am very excited to be moving to Chicago.
Well, welcome to Chicago.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. That's quite an impressive resume. Thank you. Are there any other questions? We have a motion. Mike,
I just want to say a few words.
The efforts on this evaluation were extraordinary. They went above and beyond. I want to thank the Bears. I want to thank Ted, who's not here, but Chris and Karen, who are on the evaluation team. I certainly want to thank SMG, who went above and beyond, and the CPD staff. They really were diligent. They really worked well as a very large team. Sometimes it can be a challenge when you have so many people in the room, but 12 people at a time evaluating. But they really worked hard. They got it right, and I look forward to 10 years with Aramark.
Good. Thanks, Mike.
Is there any further comments? Is there a motion?
Approve?
Second?
May we have a roll call vote on the matter?
Commissioner Shalaby?
Aye.
Commissioner Salgado?
Aye.
Vice President Armstrong?
Aye.
President Traubert?
Aye.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Great, thank you. And thank you, guys. It's very generous for you to come here and to travel here and make this presentation. It means a lot to us that we can understand this. And Rafi, you take everything that you do very seriously. There are some of these that are really important, and you focus so hard on this and work so hard. And I know, you and I spent a lot of time talking about this. I appreciate your efforts.
Thank you very much.
Mike, I think you got it right, and the process was done well.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to reiterate something that Superintendent said. I'd like to thank the Bears as well. It was a collaborative effort from drafting the RFP all the way through the evaluations, and the Bears were with us every step of the way, and it really was a great partnership to work together with the Bears on this, and I'd like to thank them as well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, we need a motion now to return back to our regularly scheduled meeting. Is that correct?
Yes.
Go into executive.
Is there a motion?
Are we going into executive?
Then we'll go into
Right, we're going to return back to our regular rules of order.
Move to go back to our regular order.
Rules of order.
Rules of order?
Yeah.
Second?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Return to our order of business.
Okay, at this time, the board will go into executive session to consider various matters appropriately discussed in executive session pursuant to the Illinois Opens Meetings Act. There will be a discussion of 2 workers' compensation claims pursuant to 5 ILCS 120, Section 2, subsection C12. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? The motion carried. The meeting is now in executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Against? Motion carried. Return to open session.
The Board of Commissioners met in executive session to discuss 2 workers' compensation claims pursuant to 5 ILCS 120, Section 2, subsection C12, and have the following matter of new business. The Board of Commissioners discussed the settlement of Beasley v. the Chicago Park District in the amount of $60,960.28. Is there a motion to approve the settlement?
So moved.
Second. Will the Secretary take a roll call for the adoption of the matter?
Commissioner Shalaby?
Aye.
Commissioner Salgado?
Aye.
Vice President Armstrong?
Aye.
President Traubert?
Aye.
Motion carried and the settlement is adopted.
The Board of Commissioners also discussed the settlement of Magdaleno v. the Chicago Park District in the amount of $57,697.70. Is there a motion to approve the settlement?
So moved.
Second. If there is no objection, we will apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the settlement is adopted.
Next, under unfinished business, item number 6 from the First Deputy General Counsel, reauthorization and adoption of prior action taken regarding the fee increases presented at the January 16, 2013 Chicago Park District Board of Commissioners meeting regarding the Museum of Science and Industry and the Art Institute. Tim King.
Thank you, Prez, Superintendent Kelly, and the members of the Commission. This is something, as the President mentioned, it's a rather unique situation. It's a board reauthorization report, and I believe it deserves a brief explanation. During the 2012 legislative session in the Illinois General Assembly, a proposition was put forth by Representative Elaine Pihos amending the Open Meetings Act to require that an agenda for a public body meeting set forth the general subject matter of a resolution or ordinance that will be the subject of the final action at a meeting. After initial opposition from local government groups and the Illinois Association of Park Districts, the language was modified and House Bill, or the item that evolved into House Bill 4687, went into effect on January 1st, 2013, January 1st of this year. Now, as you know, the Chicago Park District has long adhered to the practice of having a bifurcated meeting in which agenda items are presented during the morning committee meetings. The board votes on those items individually, and then the items are again presented as report outs from the individual committee chair and voted on in an omnibus package in the afternoon session. The exceptions, of course, being the 3 meetings that we have by act out in the field, today being one of them, where we don't have that bifurcated process. The agenda items that are to be presented during the morning committee meetings are listed and itemized individually on the committee agenda, while the omnibus items have not been traditionally itemized on the afternoon agenda. Simultaneous with this change in the OMA, an interested citizen filed a request for a public access opinion with the Illinois Attorney General's office that queried the posting process for CPD afternoon board meetings, specifically challenging the posting of the final action taken at the January 2013 board meeting. In testing his claim, the citizen used the fee increase authorization for the Art Institute of Chicago and the Museum of Science and Industry as an example of board items where final action was taken in the afternoon meeting, but the action item was not specifically itemized on the afternoon agenda, again, because of our bifurcated meeting tradition. The Attorney General issued an advisory opinion letter in which the citizen's claim under the change in the law was upheld. The Attorney General advisory opinion also directed that the board take appropriate measures to comply with the opinion by readopting and reauthorizing its final action at a properly noticed meeting referencing the fee change, hence the action we're taking here. Nowhere in the advisory opinion was the matter of the vote or the validity of the underlying vote questioned. So that's an important point. After much due diligence, we've come up with this reauthorization report, and therefore, the board is being asked to reauthorize, readopt, and reaffirm the action taken with regard to the admission fees at its January 2013 meeting for the Art Institute of Chicago and the Museum of Science and Industry. The action is requested to be ratified with the existing effective date of January 16th, 2013. Again, this is procedural due diligence. And finally, there's an opportunity here for even more transparency, which is very consistent with this board's practice and Superintendent Kelly's practice. Because of the existing CPD bifurcated meeting practice and its longstanding meeting posting process, the revised law requires that the process be revised moving forward as well. So beginning in the June meeting, all the items to be considered in the afternoon meeting will be itemized as well. And there's certainly an opportunity here that's up to the board, whether or not you would re-examine the need for the bifurcated meeting system entirely and perhaps consider one meeting, but that is up to the board. So with that, I would ask the vote to ratify the action taken in January.
Then let me just ask you a quick question on this. I understand the technicality that's involved here, but we have always, when we post this, we post that we're having committee meetings, then we post what the specific items in those committee meetings are, and then we say in the regular meetings, we will discuss the committee meetings. Those things are always presented as a piece. They're always presented together. Rather, they're not presented separately. When we publicly post that, it is always posted together. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Okay. So a simple A equals B equals C, A equals C is something that we've assumed that people would understand. This is what we did in the committee meetings, these specific items, and now that's what we're doing at the board meeting, the committee meeting. We assume that. We have been told, well, spell it out. So the fix for this is we're going to spell it out for the committee meetings, we're going to spell it out for regular board meetings. Is that right?
Well said.
Okay.
Transparency of this board was never called into question. The underlying action taken was never called into question. It was simply because of the bifurcated meeting process. It was the way we posted the individual agendas.
All right. Any other questions regarding this? And we have a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Will the Secretary take a roll call for the adoption of the matter?
Yes, sir. Do we have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Shalaby?
Aye.
Commissioner Salgado?
Aye.
Vice President Armstrong?
Aye.
President Traubert?
Aye.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Under new business item number 7 from the Chief Program Officer, authorization to enter into a contract for the summer food program, Vaughn Bryant.
Good afternoon, Board President Traubert, Board of Commissioners, and Superintendent Kelly. I stand before you to recommend authorizing the General Superintendent or his designee to enter into an agreement with Preferred Meal Systems, Inc. for the purpose of preparing, packaging, and delivering daily breakfast, lunch, and/or snacks to participate in the Chicago Park District Summer Day Camp. The contractor was selected pursuant to publicly advertised invitation for bid. No work may commence and no payment shall be made to the vendor prior to execution of this written agreement. The Chicago Park District requires that each day approximately 850 breakfasts, 22,000 lunches, and 19,000 snacks are prepared, packaged, and delivered to approximately 225 parks district-wide. The food will be delivered during the Summer Day Camp session, which is July 1st through August 31st. The Chicago Park District provides the food for its summer camp program through the Summer Food Entitlement Program organized by the Illinois State Board of Education. All food must be ISBE, City of Chicago, and federal guidelines for nutrition and food safety must meet. Preferred Meal Systems, Inc. has experience and capability to prepare and deliver the food required for the Summer Day Camp program. Annually, they prepare and deliver over 770 million school meals to over 300 school districts in 27 states, all under the most stringent food safety guidelines. Moreover, they have been providing healthy and nutritious meals for school districts throughout the United States for over 48 years. Additionally, they successfully passed the ISBE's responsibility review as part of the information for bid. Chicago Park District recommends Preferred Meal Systems for award for the Summer Food Service Program contract. Any questions?
There were only 2 bids, Vaughn. Was there much competition for this, or how well was it publicized?
Commissioner Rafi Sarafian, Director of Purchasing, like every IFB that we, or RFP, or any solicitation we advertise, it was available for download at our homepage. We also reached out to the firms that participated in the bid last year, and then we also went through the city's MBE, WBE directory to find firms that are certified to do business in catering and food services. We also reached out to other resources we have. We look at online. We just do Google searches where we're trying everything we can to bring more firms in and make it available. We also worked with our Department of Revenue, who are familiar with caterers as part of our special use facility program, and we reached out to those caterers that they're familiar with as well. And so we did a number of things to try to generate interest in the IFB, and we did get two bids.
I actually have a comment and question, if I may. One, so by doing this deal, are we keeping in line with the healthy track we're going on as being really the healthiest park district in the nation?
Yes, sir.
And two, this is a one-year deal, Ralph. Are you looking towards doing a more long-term deal in the future?
Yes, we are. This was a one-year deal because what we'd like to do going forward, 2014 and beyond, there is a after-school program as well relating to snacks and food. To qualify through the ISBE, we need to be certified as a sponsor for that program. We are not a sponsor yet. We hope to have that sponsorship shortly, and once we're certified as a sponsor for the after-school program, then for 2014 and beyond, what we'd like to do then is have the ability to advertise the entire year, more or less, for the preparation of the food, and then also it would be one bundled bid, one award, rather than the potential of 2 separate bids if we were to bid out the summer program separately and the after-school snack program separately. Much easier to manage one vendor for one program rather than 2, and therefore we also get the likelihood of increased consistency in service.
And then too, with the greater volume, we may get more interest. So
correct, greater volume, more interest, exactly.
Great. And these are federal funds.
Yes, USDA, U.S. Department of Agricultural funds that are administered through the ISBE down to us.
Great. Any other questions? Do you have a motion?
Second.
If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 8 from the Director of Budget and Management, authorization to enter into a grant agreement with Chicago Parks Foundation.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, Board President, Superintendent, General Counsel. Juliet Azimi, Budget Director, recommending that the Board of Commissioners authorize the General Superintendent or his designee to enter into a grant agreement with the Chicago Parks Foundation, an Illinois not-for-profit corporation established to raise private funds to support the creation, restoration, and conservation of Park District facilities and the expansion of Park District programs. Under the grant agreement, the Park District will provide to the Chicago Parks Foundation a grant in an amount not to exceed $200,000 annually to be prorated in the 2013 fiscal year. I'm happy to answer any financial questions. Otherwise, I'd like to ask Adam Schwerner to come up and discuss some highlights of the Chicago Parks Foundation.
So in its very short life, about a year, the Chicago Parks Foundation has already brought in about $500,000 into the parks for programming, particularly for the basketball program that's been initiated over the 10 parks for this year. And it's true that there are many people who want to give money to the Park District, but don't feel comfortable giving it to the Park District and want to give it to a not-for-profit, and so we need that not-for-profit status. We also believe that there will be many millions of dollars that this not-for-profit can bring to the table for the Park District's operations, particularly programming dollars. And that said, we have a good track record with a not-for-profit. The Parkways Foundation brought a lot of money to the parks. We imagine that'll continue.
Great. Thanks, Adam. And this is something I feel very strongly that we need to do. We have to have a philanthropic arm for the Chicago Park District, and we have to try to elevate Chicago Park District in philanthropic thought, that just like you give money to the Symphony, the Opera, one of our leading museums, that you give it to Chicago Park District for various projects. And I think that at $200,000 a year, what I would expect is that we will get a report that will show a great return on our investment for that $200,000. And I would expect then, Adam, that toward the end of the year, we would, assuming we pass this, we'll want a progress report so that we can exactly understand how this investment is paying off. But as you said, in the last year, without doing much of anything, we've seen about $500,000 of philanthropic funds come through the door.
This is just simply the smart thing to do. Many botanical institutions, botanical gardens in particular, raise many hundreds of millions of dollars to do projects that they wouldn't otherwise be able to afford. And I think the Park District is a huge and wonderful botanical institution in its own way, with a lot of programming. And I think we can be the same kind of institution related to what you just discussed, bringing in a lot of money to help people understand how important we are.
Okay, and finally, I'd like to go on record as saying that it certainly would be my hope as a board member that while this initial contribution to get this up and running over a period of about 2 years is done, that it would be our hope that this philanthropic organization, the Chicago Parks Foundation, would stand on its own feet and eventually raise money for the Chicago Park District without taking or needing any seed funding for its work.
Yes,
Brian, just a quick question. What infrastructure do we have? This is to set up some infrastructure. This investment is to set up some infrastructure in order to get the foundation going?
So infrastructure as an officing, or is that what you're referring to?
The ability to go out and raise money to...
We have, currently, we have an established, we're recognized by the IRS 501c3 Chicago Parks Foundation. We have a governing board, but we do not have an employee. We don't have an executive director.
Mm-hmm.
So the $200,000 annually, and it'll be prorated this year, starting in June. The intention is to bring on one employee, an executive director, to begin to build the organization. And of course, out of that, you have to do many other things, including buying software and the expenses of fundraising and office supplies. I've seen a pro forma budget, and this is lean. This is bare bones. We think it's enough, but we think it's barely enough.
Right, so this is just to establish the base infrastructure required just to get started.
Yes.
Yep, okay.
So if there's no further discussion, could we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
If no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter. Great,
Motion
thank you
carried
very
and the
much.
matter is adopted.
Item number 9 from the Director of Natural Resources, authorization to enter into a contract for the supply and delivery of topsoil. Adam Schwerner.
So I actually have 3 bulk contracts that I'd like to describe very quickly and talk to you about the dollar amount in the company and ask for your approval on each item separately after I do a quick introduction. So essentially, we have any number of needs for bulk material. So there's topsoil, there's baseball infield mix, and there's FIBAR. So we use baseball mix in all of our 800 ball fields to make safe, playable diamonds. We use all of the black earth to top dress our 6,000 acres of turf to get the seed growing well, to provide good outfields. And then the FIBAR is used in all of our playgrounds, about 550 playgrounds around the Park District, to create accessible and safe fall zones within the playgrounds. So these 3 bulk contracts, and I will then ask for your approval on each of them as a group. It is recommended that the Board of Commissioners and General Superintendent enter into contracts with Strawn Farm Incorporated for the purchase of topsoil for a cost of $768,000 for the initial 2-year term, Recycling Systems and Equipment Company Incorporated for the purchase of baseball infield materials at a cost of $946,700 for the first initial 2-year term, and Homer Industries, LLC, for the purchase of engineered wood fiber at a cost of $420,000 for the first initial 2-year term. And so that would be my proposal.
Adam, so bidders on these things. Sometimes you have how many bidders on these?
Commissioners, Rafi Sarafian, Director of Purchasing. For all 3 of these IFBs, we received one bid. These are all single bid awards. And what we do when we advertise, we look at the previous bid from a few years ago, and we notify all those people who participated in the bid a few years ago and give them notice of the advertisement. We go through the city's directories again. Historically, these bids do not generate a lot of interest, and it was the same circumstance this time. For the quantities that we advertise are very big, and for a lot of firms, our quantities for the first year and the second year and beyond are beyond their capacity. The other issue is we do have strict requirements in our scope of services for all 3 of these bids, and we require delivery from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. Whenever we seek the delivery, and we usually ask them to be delivered on site. So those are 2 strict requirements for a lot of firms that may be interested, and it's for those reasons generally that these bids don't generate competition. A few years ago, these generated two, maybe 3 responses, and that was it. And historically, that's it with these solicitations.
But you did your due diligence and looked at previous prices, and even though there's one, you don't feel that we're getting exorbitant pricing. We're getting competitive pricing based on past bids?
More or less, we are. Yes. I mean, the last bid was 2008, so economy has changed. Over the past 5 years. And what we're talking about right now with Adam is looking to see what we can do differently, maybe for 2014, and maybe just view this as a one-year opportunity, and then re-examining the bid during this year, and then maybe re-advertising something for next year and beyond.
So Rafi mentioned that we looked to get deliveries early in the morning. Oftentimes we'll want deliveries of infield mix at 5 different parks in those early morning hours so that we can get into those parks and prepare the diamonds so that at the end of the day there aren't these piles sitting on the diamonds where people can't play their sports. So that means that we must be able to get multiple orders, which means that trucking companies need to be able to bring those trucks to the table. And that is the hard thing with many of these delivery contracts, which is why there is not as much competition as we might like.
One more thing, Commissioners, regarding baseball infield materials, and Adam can speak to this as well, we do require a unique mix, and a lot of companies cannot provide that unique mix for baseball infield materials, and that was another reason for that bid, that we didn't generate competition.
Okay, Rafi, you know, we've had this discussion enough, but you're going to just kill yourself to always get more than one bid. We don't, this is we always look at this and say, I know our code allows us to do this.
Right.
But whenever possible, we want the
absolutely. Our preference is to bring you an award that was based on a robust competition. Unfortunately, here we didn't achieve that, but we're not stopping, we're not resting, and we will do our best for 2014 and beyond to try something different and see what we can do.
Rafi, do we ever consider breaking it up? That is, the value or the potential value of having 2 contractors delivering versus 1, and maybe making that more.
That's a conversation we can have with our department and to see if that's a possibility, and that's one of the things we can explore for 2014.
We have on other contracts.
What?
We have.
Yes, we've done that on other contracts, and we can consider it for this one. The reality is that when we've had conversations with potential bidders, they have said that the trucking piece, even if it were a smaller contract, is still a significant issue for the companies, because it is often that trucking company that is the M or the WBE, and so that's how a lot of, because the supply costs what it costs. The way to get M and WBE is usually through the trucking.
I think you can.
Okay. All right, any further discussion? Can I group these and offer a motion to accept all 3, or should we do them individually?
I'll defer to General Counsel on that. Can he group them?
What's it?
You can take a roll call on the first item and then just adopt the roll call for the second one and the third one.
Okay.
So are we doing them individually then? Or?
We would have been done if we just did them individually. So let's just do them individually. Can we have a motion on item number 9?
I would move to adopt item number 9.
Second.
If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter. May we have a motion regarding item number 10?
So moved.
Second.
If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter. We have a motion on item number 11?
So moved.
Second. If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matters are adopted.
Item number 13 from the Director of Planning and Development, authorization to enter into a contract for Garfield Park Conservatory rehabilitation of public houses. Rob Raymond.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Rob Raymond, Director of Planning and Construction, here to recommend that an order be entered authorizing the General Superintendent or his designee to enter into a contract with Mecor Industries for the rehabilitation of public houses at the Garfield Park Conservatory. This contract includes 34.96% MBE and 36.06% WBE. The contract amount is not to exceed $2,858,694. Next slide, please. Garfield Park is located at 100 North Central Park Drive in the 28th Ward. Next slide. And for those attending who don't already know, a severe hailstorm in 2011 caused unprecedented damage to the public display spaces and propagation facilities at the conservatory. In total, approximately 60% of the conservatory glass roofs were shattered by hail. This photo is of the propagating houses. Next slide. And these were repaired in phase 1. Next slide. The public houses suffered similar damage. Next, please. And temporary Lexan panels have been installed to seal these houses. Next slide. Now, while not ideal, the solution is working and the plants are doing fine and public access is maintained. Next slide. Now, while bids were received for all areas last year, only the propagating houses, shown in yellow on this slide, were awarded and completed in 2012. Bid results made it clear that the contractors were not comfortable tackling the entire job at one time, so the Park District and our insurance provider agreed to phase the project and provide temporary coverage in the public houses. All public houses were bid in January of this year. However, there was an error in the low bid and it was withdrawn prior to award. So again, we and the insurance carrier agreed to rebid in a more manageable phases based on the numbers and again, contractor input. Therefore, we bid a portion of the public houses in April, the ones shown in green. These bids were received and the low bidder was very close to the engineer's estimate. The Palm House, Children's Garden, and Aroid houses are to be substantially completed by September 15th, 2013. Horticultural Hall and the garage building are to be substantially completed by October 5th, 2013, and the show house is to be substantially completed by March 15th, 2014. And then as you can see in orange on the slide, the Fern Room and Desert Houses will be bid separately and completed next year. And I can take any questions.
What do you, Rob, what do you think accounted for such a big difference in the bidders, in the bids?
I think some of the contractors are more familiar than others with the job. This contractor, Mecor, has been on the job working with us through various phases during cleanup, etc. They sort of understood the approach. They have a very efficient approach to the way they're doing scaffolding and glazing. And I think they just were more aggressive in the way they approached the job. They went to a number of different glazing subcontractors. I think they were aggressive in pricing in that way. We checked out these subcontractors to make sure they're qualified, and we're pretty comfortable with the bid. We had, I guess to address the question more directly as well, we've had some wild swings in the bids on these jobs before, which is why they've been bid so many times. We've just been doing it as many times as it takes, to get a good approach, a reasonable cost, and a commitment from the contractor to complete the job on time.
Rob, where are we with our insurance settlement on Garfield?
We have, well, most of the work is being done through insurance. So the total funding and cost to date are the insurance claims, including this contract, are $6,922,680. And the Park District is also doing required maintenance. Since the sites are under construction, there are certain things that weren't caused by hail damage. Certain foundation cracks, painting, some steel structure that needs to be rust-proofed and repainted, etc. And that work comes to $2,282,886. And we have been getting, again, the Garfield Park Conservatory Alliance has been raising funds as well, making commitments to help with our portion of the maintenance work.
Any further questions regarding this? We have a motion?
So moved.
Second. If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 14 from the Director of Planning and Development, authorization to enter into a contract for Humboldt Park Fieldhouse exterior renovations. Rob Raymond.
Okay, thank you again. Rob Raymond, recommending that an order be entered authorizing the General Superintendent or his designee to enter into a contract with Robe Incorporated for the renovation of Humboldt Park Fieldhouse. The contract amount is not to exceed $1,703,950. The contract includes 25% MBE and 18% WB participation. Next slide, please. Humboldt Park is located at 1400 North Humboldt Drive in the 26th Ward. Next slide. This is an aerial of the park, and the field house's location is indicated on the aerial. Next slide. Humboldt Park Field House, designed by Michelson and Rogstad, was built in 1928. Pretty old building. Next slide. And it's a grand building. The work at the field house includes replacement of roofs and inlaid gutter systems. Next slide. Repair and replacement of exterior concrete and masonry. You can see in this slide that we've got areas where we've had completely loosened areas of lintels and brick that we've had to remove in the interim just because they were hazardous conditions. Next slide. Replacement of deteriorated steel lintels and shelf angles. Next slide. Window restoration and door repairs or replacements. Next slide. And sealing of the veranda perimeter, replacement of leaking plumbing lines, clearing of the underground drain lines, and interior plaster repairs, you can see here, are needed related to water leaks. Now, summer programs will be able to continue during construction as most of the work is exterior. Bids were solicited through an IFB. 4 bids were received and 3 were found responsive. The awardee is the lowest and responsible and responsive bidder. Construction will be substantially completed by December 13, 2013. And it should be noted that a large amount of the money for this project, $1.28 million, comes from a state grant, a PARC grant, and the Park District's putting in a $426,000 match for the project. I can take any questions.
Are there any questions? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 15 from the Director of Planning and Development, authorization to enter into a contract for Calumet Park Fieldhouse exterior renovation. Rob Raymond.
Thank you. Again, Rob Raymond, recommending that an order be entered authorizing the General Superintendent or designee to enter into a contract with Tyler Lane Construction for the renovation of Calumet Park Fieldhouse. The contract amount is not to exceed $2,500,473, and the contract includes 27% MBE and 5% WBE participation. Next slide, please. Calumet Park is located at 9801 South Avenue G in the 10th Ward along the lakefront. Next slide. This is an aerial of Calumet Park with the location of the field house shown. Next slide. The South Park Commission constructed this monumental and classically designed field house in 1924. It contains 2 gymnasiums, a fitness center, and actually a lakeshore model train exhibit. It's pretty interesting. Gymnastics center, sewing and upholstery studios, wood shops, and multipurpose rooms. The after-school programs are offered throughout the school year, and the summer youth attend the Park District's popular 6-week day camp. Specialty camps are also offered here in the summer and include gymnastic camp and nature camp. Next slide, please. Work at the field house includes replacement of roofs. You can see a severely deteriorated portion here where the water infiltration is affecting the interior. Next slide. Repair of or replacement of spalled exterior concrete, steel lintels, shelf angles, and balustrades. Next slide, please. Repainting of exterior, interior plaster repairs related to water leaks, and lastly, the demolition of this deteriorated chimney at the powerhouse building. Now, again, summer programs can continue during construction as most of the work is exterior. Bids were solicited through an IFB. 6 bids were received, and the awardee is the lowest responsible and responsive bidder. Construction is to be substantially completed by December 13th, 2013. And I can take any questions.
Any questions regarding this item? Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second. If there's no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
Item number 16 from the Director of Planning and Development, authorization to enter into Task Order 6 for Broadway Armory, Douglas Park Fieldhouse, La Follette Park Fieldhouse, Nash Community Center, Ogden Park Fieldhouse, Shabona Park Fieldhouse, and Stanton Park Fieldhouse project approval under the Energy Savings Performance Contracting Services Program. Rob Raymond.
Thank you. Again, Rob Raymond. On March 10th, 2010, the Board of Commissioners awarded contracts to provide energy savings performance contracting services under the Local Government Energy Conservation Act. Competitive proposals for Task Order 6, the subject of this item, were solicited from all 3 awardees, Amoresco, Johnson Controls, and Siemens. The proposed design solutions, anticipated energy savings, and prices were carefully reviewed, and Siemens proposals were found to be the most advantageous to the Park District. It's therefore recommended that the Board of Commissioners adopt the enclosed ordinance as required by the Act to authorize this scope in an amount not to exceed $4,600,000. The task order includes 28% MBE participation and 5.4% WBE participation. Next slide, please. The scope varies by location, but generally includes replacement of the existing mechanical systems that provide heating, ventilation, and air conditioning for the 7 parks listed in Task Order 6. These are Broadway Armory in the 48th Ward, Douglas Park in the 12th Ward and 24th Ward, La Follette Park in the 37th Ward, Nash Community Center in the 7th Ward, Ogden Park in the 17th Ward, Shabona in the 38th Ward, and Stanton Park in the 27th Ward. Now, the existing systems are past their expected life cycles and are very inefficient. All of the new HVAC equipment will have digital controls that tie into the Park District's central building automation system to provide temperature control, operations, energy use trending, graphics, scheduling, and alarms. The scope also includes interior lighting replacement, weatherization, and other miscellaneous energy conservation measures needed for increased efficiency. And at this point in time, I would like to introduce Ellen Sargent. She's been the project manager on this project since 2010 when we first started doing energy performance contracting projects. She's our local expert on it. There's been a lot of work done to date to get to the 57 sites we're at now. So just wanted to thank Ellen for all of her hard work to this point and sort of turn it over to her to give a quick update on where we're at with all of the projects.
Thanks, Rob. Good afternoon. Next slide, please. I wanted to start with a couple of total numbers. What we're looking at is a map of all of the facilities in the Park District that have been upgraded through the Energy Savings Performance Contract. Including the sites in Task Order number 6, there's a 57 total. Also including the Task Order 6 sites, the total contract amount for the program is $39,500,762. The total anticipated annual energy savings from all of these facilities is $687,580. Before you look at those numbers and think that there's a big difference, please remember that the energy savings is an annual energy savings, and the term of the contract is 10 years. Therefore, the total energy savings over this term is going to be $6,873,120. That's going to be 17% of the total contract amount. The additional savings that are generated through these projects are operational savings and capital avoidance savings. Again, an annual savings of about $4 million through those. The Park District has also received $613,000 in DCEO rebates. These projects, these energy efficiency projects, generated this money just by being energy efficient. And we poured all of that money back into existing projects. We've also saved about $150,000 for future maintenance of our building automation system. Next slide. Now this slide was in Rob's original presentation in July 2010. And it's a reconfirmation that we have not changed our program goals, but we are getting close to, or we are taking in more data and accumulating this data to confirm that we've attained them. The first two goals have been realized by replacing these old, deteriorated, unenergy efficient systems with new infrastructure. We focused on the most dilapidated and the projects that needed the most maintenance during heating systems. We now have technologically advanced, stable, energy efficient infrastructure. What the Park District has now is smart buildings. Our buildings have sensors, alarms, as well as battery backups on a lot of our equipment, which reduces the occurrence of emergency events that can accelerate deterioration of mechanical and electrical equipment. Now, the realization of energy savings is an industry-specific phase of performance contracting called measurement and verification. Measurement and verification is a mutually acceptable term between the owner and the ESCO to quantify the energy savings, and it starts as soon as the owner has approved final completion of a project. That date then starts that first year of measurement and verification. We have started to get back the M&V reports from the first task order, more specifically for the first 10 buildings that got final acceptance. The report that we have shows that we not only got the estimated savings of $163,000, but we also are looking at an excess savings of $7,200. The majority of those excess savings are from boilers. We were guaranteed a savings of 8,959 therms. The measured therms that we saved came out to 17,021 therms. That excess of 8,000 additional saved therms, which is the unit cost for natural gas, or a unit for natural gas, came to about $6,800. We anticipate continuing to see these higher savings and have started or are looking to form a team with the Park District's internal auditor so that we can also do our own measurement and verification as these reports continue to come in. Next slide. These are some existing conditions at the Broadway Armory. The Armory is one of our largest buildings, and you can see the boilers have to be large enough to heat it. One of the design solutions that we have in our energy efficiency program is to take the capacity, the need of heating for a building. And actually, in what you're looking at here are two boilers that can have 100% of the heating capacity for this huge building. For the most part, you're not heating 100% of the capacity every single day. So our new systems also have two boilers, but we only are sizing them to have 75% heating capacity. That means on the really cold days, the other one will kick on and provide 100%, but otherwise we're using smaller, more efficient equipment on a daily basis to increase energy savings. Next slide. These are some pictures of our new boiler systems. As you can see, there's always two. We have them on a lead lag so that they switch over almost every week or every 2 weeks so that the equipment gets exercised and utilized on a consistent level. Next slide. The control system that we installed through this program is top-of-the-line technology. You can see we did have some control systems in our older buildings. They're a little bit large, and not as precise as the automation systems that we have now. Next slide. On the right is one of our new, what we call the brains of the building. What this is a JACE. It's a Java applied control engine, or depth application control engine. And every single piece of equipment, every controller, every sensor gets wired back to this unit, which is then connected to the internet. And it makes for happy chief engineers, as you see on the other picture.
I would argue Voss, the engineer, say he's the brain.
I got
of
him
the building.
smiling. I got him smiling. So I had to take the picture. It's also a good point to acknowledge the partnership. We used our expertise of all of our chief engineers in the facilities maintenance department. And we also worked closely with the IT department when we integrated this new system onto the Park District network. Next slide. And here's a screenshot of a steam building system. This is actually Gage Park today. And this is what the engineers, as they log on in 3 clicks, they can be at this screenshot. You can see here, it tells you what boiler is in lead, what boiler is in lag. It tells you how many hours they've been operated. It tells you if there's any alarms that are going on with this equipment. And it tells you that today it was 70 degrees. And with that kind of an outside air temperature, we do not need the boilers on. So there's no fire coming out of that graphic, which means they're not on. The building automation system that we put together was developed and created through this program. And it's probably been one of the most successful parts of the program. What we've been able to do is utilize newer software and newer network systems, newer architecture, to specify a building automation system that is completely openly programmable and openly configurable. That means that there's no one company that can stop us at any level of these controllers or connections and say, you need my password to get in there, and therefore you have to hire me. We have installed this system at the 57 facilities, and the program has been accoladed by many, many different municipalities. We were actually featured in the February magazine, an article in the February magazine of National Recreation and Parks Association, where they called our energy leadership and building automation one of the trending technologies of park systems in the future. And a couple of weeks ago, I got a phone call from a facility director in Bellevue, Washington, that had read the article, was having the exact same issue with his contractors, and wanted to know more about how we made it openly programmable and configurable, because people were telling him, you have to go with my system, you have to go with my system. We are also going to focus, or we're also going to present our program, the new infrastructure and the new building automation system at the Greening the Heartland conference in Chicago this October. So if there's any questions.
Great job.
Great, thank you so much.
Sure.
Really appreciate the work to save the Park District resources. I think that's so important.
Thank you.
Comments? Yeah, sure. Why not? Ellen's being modest. Ellen has really quarterbacked this since 2010, and not only is this a trending nationwide, we're the leader. We're the leader in park districts. I believe we're the leader in government. And again, it's like that one commercial where the environmentalist comes to the CFO or the CEO of the company, and it goes from color to or black and white to a color screen. I mean, there's a lot of money. This is money. And this is smart, and we're ahead of the curve, and trying to get companies like Honeywell, Siemens, and Ameresco, these very large international companies, to create a system and work together that it all speaks the same language. That's a big deal. And again, Ellen's being modest, but Ellen and Rob, they've had a lot of influence in doing this over the years. So thank you.
Just one more thing, Mike. What keeps us from accelerating this further if it's saving us resources?
Why wouldn't I accelerate? I'm sorry, I didn't hear the front
What
part.
we've got so many facilities that need this, right?
Right.
What prevents us from accelerating it further?
Capital dollars.
Capital dollars does, because you got to put the money up front.
It's not cheap. You got to make a big investment up front.
Any further discussion, or we could have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
If there is no objection, we'll apply the last favorable roll call vote from the prior matter to this matter.
Motion carried and the matter is adopted.
That concludes the annual board meeting. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. The board meeting is now adjourned.